Hi, my name's Rory Campbell. I'm the editorial manager here. We maintain the data that goes into JustCite. Effectively, what that means is managing a team of editors who are all legally trained. The editors here have all gone on to do the law degrees, and the majority of them have gone on to do their BPTC or the LPC. So they're experienced in the same way our users will be. They'll have the understanding or a concept of what research actually means in practice. But it also means that they're familiar with the academic side of research, so they'll know the name of the primary sources. They'll also understand how those primary sources interact with each other in terms of a piece of legislation will affect earlier pieces of legislation, or a new piece of case law from the Supreme Court, how that will affect earlier domestic case law. Our customers or users are constantly in the situation where they need to discover what good law is. Now, because they are comfortable with research and law, they are familiar with the concept of good law in the sense of, is this piece of legislation safe for me to use? Has it been subsequently repealed or amended in a way that affects my current understanding of it? Or if it's a piece of case law, is it still valid for me to use? Is it still sound precedent? What we do with that is we prepare the research on that and display that for customers, so they're then able to use that in their skeleton argument, for example. That's also used to save them time so they don't have to do the low-level research that we do. That can be applied across any subject area. It also means that they're in a position where they can spend more time on, for example, advocacy issues that they may not be familiar with. So rather than having to do repetitive research, we're in a position where we can deliver that content to them. A common problem our customers will have is that they're in a position of writing a skeleton argument, for example, and a new piece of legislation has come through. Now, they may be familiar with an earlier piece of legislation or an earlier piece of case law. They're now in a position where they can't spend the time actually drafting their argument or preparing their advocacy points because they have to go off and do the low-level research to make sure that this recent piece of case law, recent piece of legislation, hasn't negatively affected their earlier precedent of a piece of legislation. What we do is actually take the hard copy of the content, the new item, so to speak, that's come through, and we digest that, we summarise that, and display the effects of that legislation on both the page we will hold on JustCite for that new entity, but also the earlier case law or legislation affected by that. Now, that effect may be very neutral, and it doesn't affect their understanding of the particular point of law, but it can be very strongly negative, which means that their entire point of argument may completely change. The end result is a high-value definition of what good law is in that particular point, but the customer or user doesn't have to do the low-level research involved in terms of determining that particular point. So what we aim to do here at JustCite is take that work that the editorial team that we've just described in terms of determining the research path for our users, aided by the technology we use both in terms of searching and ranking of our results, and deliver the strongest citator that you have out there to make JustCite the leading research path tool that our users can use for determining what is good law and what's not.